Hello YouTube, it's Coordinaire, or Court for short. When I first watched Star Wars, I remember panicking during the trash compactor scene and being mesmerized at the Death Star attack. Since then, I've always wanted to fly a real X-Wing. Unfortunately, the laws of both physics and the Federal Aviation Administration prevent me from doing so. Luckily, Kerbal does not have such limitations, meaning I can do so if I please. In today's video, I will show the steps necessary to build and fly your own KSP X-Wing. Before starting, here's a disclaimer. I had to eject from the cockpit at the end of the demo flight to avoid crashing. I believe it is possible to land the X-Wing, but due to time constraints, I didn't record a proper landing. Here is a previous design that I will be using as a guide for the video. The only main difference is that I will use the circular intakes on the engine nacelles instead of those domes. Click the Mark I inline cockpit. Drain the monopropellant, which is something I forgot. Place the long Mark II adapter in front of the cockpit and the Mark II rocket fuel fuselage behind it. Offset both fuselages until they are flush with the cockpit. If needed, hold Shift while dragging the mouse to make smaller adjustments. Add the T200 and T400 fuel tanks in front of the adapter. The direction of the tanks doesn't matter. I just like this pattern. Auto strut all of the current parts. Then, add the 1.25 diameter inline reaction wheel in front. Finish off the body with an NCS fuel tank and a small nose cone. For the wings, place the wing connector, A, parallel to the rocket fuselage. Make sure mirrored symmetry is on. Use the offset tool to align the wing connectors. Place a swept wing B at the back of the connector and rotate it 90 degrees. You can either rotate it using the keyboard or place it and use the rotation tool. Add the structural wing B in front, also rotated and aligned with the swept wing so that it forms a cohesive shape. It should be as flat as possible in the front. Place a Mark II drone core piece in the back. This serves as both an autopilot and a second reaction wheel. For the engine nacelles, take a pre-cooler and place it at the edge of the wing connector piece. It will place at a slight angle as shown in the video. Add a circular intake to the front. The pre-cooler will supply enough air to the engines, so this is just a decoration and can be left open or closed, or even replaced by the domes shown at the beginning. Next, add a T400 fuel tank to the back of the pre-cooler. To complete the nacelles, add the Rapier engine to the back. At this point, it will somewhat resemble the Z-95 Headhunter, which was a Republic aircraft that predated the X-Wing. Drag the wings towards the fuselage until the engines are up against it. Then, shift drag them up by one increment. Finally, drag the engines even closer to the body until they cover the two gray lines. To complete the wings, add two Elevon 5s to the trailing edge. Make sure they are in line with the wings and spaced properly. These allow you to control the craft. For the wingtip cannons, hover the Mark 0 liquid fuel tanks so that they are parallel to the wingtips, then rotate them until they are on top of the wings. Drag them down the wing until they are clipped into the outer edge of the elevons. They should be slightly above centered on the wings and not stick in or out past the wingtips. Alt-click them to duplicate, then place 2 more in front so that they cover the wingtip. I don't know why this one is rotated this way. Must be some sort of error with the symmetry. Just ignore it, it's barely noticeable. To add the firing mechanism to the cannons, take the Starshot 8 firework canister and place them in the front of the liquid fuel tanks. The color is not as important, but if you want an accurate design, just move the color sliders to the top right corner. To make the fireworks more like laser cannons, change the settings to those in the video. If you want the bolts to go further, just set the delay higher. I suggest between 5 and 15 is the ideal range. To finish the wingtip cannons, put a small nose cone at the back of the fuel tanks. Use the rotation tool next to the offset button and flip it 180 degrees, then shift drag it until it is just in front of the fireworks. Zoom into the fuselage until you can grab the wing connector pieces. Alt-click to copy the wing design, then place the wing on the opposite side of the fuselage. Align the wings so that they are the same distance apart from each other in the fuselage. Now the craft should look like an X-wing. Don't try to fly it though, as it is still missing some important parts. For the wheels, place the small landing gear at the front of the fuel tanks that are part of the bottom engine nacelles so that they are roughly centered there. Spread them out so that the X-wing is more stable on the runway. Cycle symmetry back to standard, then place the medium landing gear on the reaction wheel so that it supports the nose of the vehicle. Adjust so that it is level with the rear wheels. The decals are completely optional, but if you want to, take the flat flag, set it to the stripe pattern, remove the background, and scale up to the maximum size. Place it on the wings and adjust to be flush with the leading edge. Offset it to be as flat as possible with the wings, and it will look like you are part of Red Squadron. I probably should have done this before copying the second pair PF wings. Since I am cheap and don't have the breaking ground DLC, I have chosen to make the wings fixed in the extended position. However, you could use the hinges to make them open and close. Once the wings are at the proper angle, adjust the wheels to be level. Move the wing connector pieces down so that there is less of a gap between them. This display shows the fuel drain priority. I have found that if the fuel drains incorrectly, the X-Wing won't fly. Pause the video if needed to make sure the fuel is draining correctly. Basically, the fuel needs to drain from the nose first so that it can generate more lift. Note that while the pre-coolers are displayed in the middle, they are meant to drain last. At this point, the X-Wing can fly safely. However, there are some improvements that can be made, primarily with action groups. Remove all of the fireworks from symmetry so they can fire independently. Then, assign them to an action group of your choice. I chose the abort one. This one is especially important. Make sure pressing a button can switch the Rapier engines from jet to rocket mode. I used the RCS key, but anything can work. You can also assign the fireworks to fire in diagonal pairs like they do in the movies. Again, up to you. I forgot to record this, but I added batteries to the back. The X-Wing runs out of power otherwise. Also, I fixed the crooked engines that were in the previous part of the video and drained the monopropellant out of the cockpit. Before flying, please note that this thing is not very stable in flight. In Star Wars, X-Wings fly using movie science and don't need traditional airplane parts. This model tries to balance accuracy with functionality and therefore doesn't have a rudder. This means that it cannot safely yaw or turn left to right. This causes me to lose control and eject at the end of the video. Red 3, you are clear for takeoff. As you pick up speed, slowly raise the nose until you are slightly pitching up. Continue to accelerate while flying mostly horizontally. As the white shockwaves around the craft turn red, start to throttle down. This will waste less fuel fighting the air resistance. If the Rapiers haven't switched automatically by 28 kilometers, switch them manually. Once they do, throttle down more. Turn the craft prograde and gently pitch up. Start to monitor your trajectory. Keep burning until your apoapsis has reached 70 kilometers. When it has, throttle all the way down and coast. If it goes down, burn very briefly to return it. Once you reach the apoapsis, burn at full throttle until the periapsis reaches 70 kilometers. A little over is alright, just don't waste too much delta V. You've reached orbit. Congratulations. Now, you can relax. Or fire the cannons you made, and do spectacular maneuvers in zero gravity. When you're ready to deorbit, turn the X-wing retrograde, so you are pointing backwards. Warp to a point somewhere behind where you want to land, and fire up your engines. You want the orbital line to point somewhere past your target, because aerobraking will take care of the rest. Once you come out of warp, reorient to prograde and wait until you go below 70 kilometers. Just as with ascent, you want to gently pitch up so that you can take advantage of the air resistance. Once you are back in the atmosphere, turn on stability assist so that you aren't locked to a prograde heading. Plasma waves will start to form, but they shouldn't destroy anything. At about 30 kilometers, switch the Rapiers back to jet mode and go full throttle. Once they get air, slowly throttle down to avoid burning excess fuel. Don't pull up anymore, as it may cause you to ascend. Carefully guide the craft towards your target. This is where it all goes wrong. I cut out the clip of my tailspin for time's sake, and because it didn't provide any useful info on how to land. If you recover from one or avoid it entirely, guide the X-wing back to its target and land like a normal plane. I made this video because I couldn't find any good tutorials for a realistic X-wing here on YouTube. After this, I'm starting to realize why. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, you know what to do. Thank you for watching. This has been Courtinaire, signing off.